Hello again, this is Dr. Whitey, and today I want to talk to you about proteins. Protein is a funny word derived from the Greek language, and it means of first importance. The ancient Greeks, who worshipped physical fitness, came to quickly realize that of all the foods that we eat, protein is of the most important. Without protein, the human body shrivels, becomes weak, flabby, and wastes away. Hence the name protein, of first importance. Now there are many sources of protein that are available. The two major sources of protein in today's marketplace are soy and whey protein. And there has been a lot of discussion back and forth about which one is better. Soy versus whey, whey versus soy, and so on. Let us first establish that protein is essential in the diet. In fact, millions and millions of people around the world, including here in the US, are actually protein deficient. And one of the biggest reasons for that is that people have the erroneous false belief that protein foods make them fat. This, of course, is not the case in any way whatsoever. Protein is one of the few things, in fact, that you can eat to excess that will not make you excessively overweight. Protein within the body has several very important functions. It rebuilds every single cell or tissue structure in your body, and only protein can rebuild the tissues of your body. It repairs damaged tissues. So every time you damage and break down muscle tissue and whatever, if you don't have adequate protein, your body cannot rebuild that tissue. That's why athletes are keenly aware of keeping their protein intake elevated. Proteins help the body to manufacture enzymes. They help in fluid balancing. People who are protein deficient oftentimes hold fluid. They become puffy and they retain water. For a good quality skin, hair, nails, the beauty things, protein is absolutely essential. One of the quickest ways to prematurely age is to go on a low protein diet. Proteins are also necessary for nerve contraction, muscle contraction, so they help with exercise, motion, and movement. Now, not all protein sources are the same. There's animal versus vegetable. Animal proteins in general are always what we call complete proteins, in that it means that their amino acid structure is all there. There's 8 to 10 essential amino acids. And without those amino acids being in the protein at the same time, you cannot absorb the amino acids. So it's called the limiting factor. Well, animal proteins have 100% of all of those essential amino acids. On the other hand, vegetable proteins, with very few rare exceptions, do not. Now, what this means is that if someone is a pure vegetarian, they must learn to combine vegetarian proteins together at the same meal in order to achieve what we call amino acid efficiency. The best sources of protein for human beings would be egg, whey, and other animal proteins. The best sources of vegetable protein would be rice and other grains. Now, that brings us to a very popular form of protein called soy. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many researchers and lots of clinical studies that have been done over the last couple of decades, soy protein is one of the worst forms of protein for human beings, especially in concentrated form. Now, if you're going to be consuming soy in food, such as tofu, such as soybeans, there's no problem. The problem with soy begins to develop when we concentrate it, such as a concentrated soy protein. It is very hard to digest. It must be embellished with other amino acids because soy in and of itself is primarily an incomplete protein. And one of the biggest concerns that we have over soy is that it contains what's called phytoestrogens. That's plant estrogens. And if you understand how this is working, the majority of us today in our environment are what we call estrogen dominant. And that's true whether you're male or female. Women are oftentimes estrogen dominant, and in their younger years leads to PMS type symptoms. Older women who are approaching or are entering into the menopause are frequently estrogen dominant, as established by the late John Lee in his pioneering work. Men are becoming more and more estrogen driven as the estrogens in our environment increase. They increase primarily from chemoestrogens found in plastics. And every time those plastics are heated or processed in any way, they release tons of chemoestrogen compounds, raising the estrogen level in all of us, men and women alike. This resultant estrogen dominance can lead to complications of menopause, lowering of sperm count in men, and so forth. And because so much of this is totally unavoidable, I strongly suggest to our clients at our research center to avoid concentrated soy protein, because it merely contributes to the problem. Not only would I be concerned about the phytoestrogen issue, but soy also depletes calcium, vitamin D, and trace minerals zinc, copper, iron. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that people who use high doses of soy have a greater risk of bone loss and osteoporosis, especially later in life. There are recent clinical studies to show that concentrated soy protein can stimulate certain types of cancer cells and accelerate their growth. Lastly, soy protein depresses thyroid function. If you have an underactive thyroid, you should avoid soy at all cost. While there isn't currently significant evidence to show that soy can cause a thyroid problem, there is overwhelming evidence to show that if you do have an existing thyroid issue, you must avoid soy protein, because the amino acid structure in the soy can actually lower your thyroid function even more. A lot of soy protein also contains high levels of aluminum, simply because of the way it's processed. So what does that mean? That means that I really feel that, in a practical sense, whey protein from dairy is the best source. Whey protein contains all the amino acids necessary. It helps to stimulate your immune system naturally, which is one of the reasons why whey protein has become so popular in recent years. It's because of the scientific research recently done on whey protein's effect on the immune system. And in our environment, you can never have too strong or too fit an immune system. Whey protein is one of the proteins that rebuilds muscle tissue the fastest. That's why athletes, endurance athletes, bodybuilders, power lifters, people who are interested in gaining and maintaining muscle mass always use whey protein as opposed to any other source. Remember that not all proteins have the same value. Now, what if you say, okay, that's all great, Doc, but I'm a vegetarian, and I'm a pure vegetarian, and I really don't know that I want to compromise that and consume dairy or something from dairy. Then for those clients, we always recommend using concentrated rice protein, and that's available in almost any health food store. Rice protein does not have, in fact, the negative connotations or results of soy. So you can maintain your philosophical and or other prerequisites for your diet and still avoid soy and still ensure that your body's getting adequate protein. If you should have any questions about the use of protein, what proteins are good for you, and how much protein you should have on a daily basis, please feel free to contact our Research Institute. Our toll-free number is 1-888-454-8464.